Christina Hoff Sommers. Hey. How are you? Great to see you again. It's been too long. We go way back.
We go way back.
You used to be a lot on politically incorrect,
yes.
right? I remember you were on when your first book came out, which was called Who Stole Feminism?
Yes.
And it's so funny. I was thinking, because my show was called Politically Incorrect, I thought I was going to defeat political correctness. Only has gotten worse.
Yes.
I failed miserably at that. And as far as Who Stole Feminism, whoever stole it, that kind of got worse too, didn't it?
It got worse. I thought it was going to be easy to get it back.
Yeah.
It's proved impossible. And feminism is supposed to be about equality between the sexes, mutuality, friendship, civility. Yet it's captive to a small group of very intense eccentrics who think men are the enemy, and that look, the goal of feminism was to overcome male chauvinism. I became a feminist in the 70s because I didn't like male chauvinism. I still don't. But the answer is not female chauvinism.
Right.
And now the movement is captive to female chauvinists who want to just emphasize how bad men are, toxic masculinity. And
somehow, you know, people like you, now maybe you don't agree with everything you say, but how did you get to be the right-winger? I mean, you're a Democrat, right?
I am
You're Jewish.
Democrat,
you have a PhD
Democrat.
from Brandeis.
Yes.
Okay, you've been published in the New England Journal of Medicine. You're not a crazy person. I mean, I read about what happened to you at, was it Oberlin College?
Many colleges. I'm a frequent college lecturer, and when I have been lecturing for years, and usually I'd go to debate and spar with some women's studies professors because I occupy a different position in sort of feminist theory. But now, these days, I go and it's not the women's studies people, it's the students who come, the activists, to demonstrate. They set up safe rooms. I spoke at Oberlin.
Safe rooms from you?
From me. And I have to have bodyguards. At Oberlin, I had a detail of police.
What, didn't they also have a therapy dog?
Yes. Here's the thing. They warned
from you, because you...
No, a young woman, well, they had these safe rooms set up, and 30 women and a therapy dog fled to the safe space. I triggered a dog. And I feel bad about the dog.
Yeah, see, I mean, you mentioned things that I thought feminism was when it started out. One of the things I thought it was about was strength.
Exactly.
You know, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Strong. They love Wonder Woman.
Women, but hear me roar, you know.
Hear me, right. But
what happened to that?
I'm asking you.
Okay.
the fragility. Yes. It's not just women, let's be honest. It's the
fainting couch feminism.
What?
Fainting couch. Remember the 19th century where women would like collapse on an elegant chaise in the presence of male vulgarity? Well, I mean, we can't handle that. We want to be in the military, you know, we want to be running the world. Well, I'm sorry, you can handle male impropriety. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have strong rules against sexual harassment. As a feminist, I fought for that. But that doesn't mean policing men for little minor, you know, faults.
Can I read this? Is Bernie Sanders had to start his campaign for president this time, fending off these accusations that someone in his campaign had committed horrible crimes. Not horrible crimes, but sexual crimes, or it was lumped in with the Me Too thing.
They told a joke someone heard.
It was not that bad. He said, "Can I touch your hair?" And she said yes, and then he did it for longer than she wanted. And maybe he was touching her all day. It was wrong, but things happen that are wrong. But listen to another Bernie Sanders campaign said she had to share a room one night with male staffers. This happens on a campaign. They're on a shoestring budget. This is what she said. "I was shaking with fear. Literally, I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Go to sleep." You know, these are not these are not escaped cons you're in the room with. These are Bernie Sanders campaign.
I know, and this is not what feminism is supposed to be. But there are these professors, and they pass along these messages that we're all traumatized, we're all fragile, we're diminished under this patriarchal oppressive system. This is madness. American women arguably are among the freest, most self-determining in history. I was a philosophy. And at the very moment where we have this opportunity for just profound equality with men and to take on running of the world with men, at that very moment we start giving, especially undergraduate women at the more elite colleges, we start giving them the message that they're victims, they're fragile, they need not equality with men, but protection from these toxic masculine hegemons.
Here's Joe Biden's. Lucy Flores, I was taking deep breaths, preparing myself to make my case to the crowd. I felt two hands on my shoulders. I froze. Froze from that? Why is the Vice President of the United States touching me? He's human. Sometimes humans touch other people. I get touched sometimes. I don't want people. Thank you, touchers. I was mortified. This rises. I didn't wash my hair today, and the Vice President is smelling it. Now we've hit a nerve with the crowd. He proceeded to plant a big, slow kiss on the back of my head. My brain couldn't process what was happening. You couldn't process what's an old man is kissing the back of your head.
This is the madness. And on the campus, they use the language of catastrophe to characterize like day-to-day life on the campus. One young woman, I was at University of Pennsylvania, and she said, "Oh, I was mini-raped." A guy walked by and said, "Nice legs." You know? And
well, microaggression, mini-rape. I see where this is going.
And microaggressions. Oh, well, this is the thing. So if a man... so you have to define microaggressions, and these are like minor insults, but that somehow remind you of your diminished place in the patriarchal oppressive system. So apparently using the phrase, "you guys," women can't handle that, and...
Monster!
Monster. It trivializes feminism. It trivializes genuine...
And the Me Too movement. I mean, look, we owe, well, I say we, men, owe women a lot. Because we're a young species. We're basically still savages. Yeah. And women have borne the brunt of that.
Yes.
They're like, we don't want to applaud that. We want to applaud opposing that. Yes, I know what you mean. But it just goes to crazy places. Now, I know you have said you think that male privilege is a conspiracy theory.
No, I think that men have privileges, but so do women.
Right.
And I think if you look at contemporary America, what you see is a complicated mix of advantages and burdens for each sex. For example, women are far more privileged in the classroom. Young women and girls are far more privileged than boys. Boys are barely tolerated these days in many classrooms. They just not, a lot of schools of education are captive to these paranoid theories about toxic masculinity, and they think that the slightest show of male bravado, so a little boy, you know, can be thrown out of, suspended because he bit like a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun, and he was thrown out of school. I know. Like
a talented kid. I knew people could do the thing with the cherry stem, but also men die.
Men die.
Younger, they die in workplace accidents. 92% of people who die in workplace accidents, men. Murder victims, 78%. Suicide, 78%. 85% go into combat. For the same crime, 63% longer sentences if you're a man. So, yeah, I get your point that there's bad things to being a man, too.
Yeah, it's for both sexes.
But what about the pay gap? Now, this is probably where you're most controversial.
I'm not controversial. It's not me. Any responsible economist who looks at the gap, what you see is that, on average, women do, if you look at all the men and all the women in the country working full-time, it turns out there's about a 20 to 23% gap. Now, is that because of discrimination? Well, people have tried to find the discrimination, but at first you have to do the proper controls and ask, what did they study in school? What job are they in? You know, how many hours a week do they work? How long do they commute? How dangerous is the job? And when you factor in these various things, the wage gap begins to narrow to the point of vanishing.
But some of it isn't it because women, they say, don't negotiate as well as men for their own behalf?
Well, you know, some Harvard economists like Claudia Golden have looked into that and think that doesn't explain the gap. Most of the gap is explained by, it's at the very high end where men are willing to work just punishing hours, you know, on weekends and in law firms and in finance, and that has an enormous
Well, women
payoff.
do that too, of course.
They don't do it as much.
Maybe they don't do it as much.
They don't do it as much. And now you could say it's unfair because women are maybe taking care of children, or women don't have the liberty to do that. Now that's true, and that's an interesting discussion, but notice that's not because employers are cheating them. It's because men and women do behave slightly differently in private life. So
and
it's something
even
in
if
the
it
home.
even if it is, and I think it is somewhat the case that women are not as adept at negotiating for themselves, it is incumbent upon them to
learn how to do it.
Thank you.
But also college majors. So if you want to make a lot of money, you should major. We know this. The highest, you know, the most remunerative college major is like petroleum engineering. You will make more money if you are, now the majority of the majors in petroleum engineering are males, very few females. And women are much more likely.
I'd rather cut off my dick than in being that job.
I know, me too, me too. Also, metallurgy, naval architecture, very few women, but you make money. Now, women are over here in early childhood education, fields they find rewarding, and social work and gender studies.
Society has shitty priorities.
Yeah.
But that's not a...
But then you can try to change those priorities, but don't say we're being cheated out of our salary. It's a complicated issue. So what I try to do on the Femsplainers is to show people that women are going to be helped by truth and accurate analyses of problems. And we just don't have that right now. We have a lot of spin and you know, hyperbole.
I got to go get with my therapy dog. But thank you so much for coming by and femsplaining to us. Great to see you again.